They are failures that encourage evil people to continue to do evil things. By far the biggest story in America right now, for at least half the country, is because the other half is trying to ignore it desperately, is this absolutely horrific video that has been released of a refugee from Ukraine, Irina Zarutska. She was on August 22nd on the Charlotte light rail line. She's 23 years old. She's a lovely young woman. There's video of her. She was showing up as a refugee, working, I believe, at a Subway, trying to just support herself, trying to do things the right way, fled a war, and was viciously, brutally stabbed to death for absolutely no reason other than the evil and maliciousness, malevolence of an individual, DeCarlos Brown, who's now in custody. And we need to talk about this. First of all, there's many layers to get into here. I just want to say people are waking up and the country's had enough. The country's had enough of, we're going to refuse to prosecute in a serious way. We're going to refuse to clean up the streets. We're going to allow people to be murdered, raped, robbed, because we lack the political will to do something about it. We all know what must be done. It could not be more clear. And I'll walk you through, in this case, it could not have been more clear, but there are social justice angles, there are racial angles, there are components here that push the Democrat Party, push the left, to make us all suffer in our cities and just in general from crime that is preventable and that should have been, in this case, prevented. The authorities failed this young woman, and the video that has been released of this attack from a few weeks ago is haunting. I've had people texting me from over the weekend. They're all just saying, have you seen this? I'm sick to my stomach. Have you seen what happened to this beautiful young woman? Because this vile psycho murdered her. And he was a career criminal. It was known that he was a risk to the public. It was known that this guy was going to continue to offend. But a judge saw him recently and decided, let's just give him a 15th chance. No more 15th chances. Maybe we could start with that. No matter what the race, no matter what the gender, no matter what the creed of the individual may be, no more 15th chances. Can we all agree with that? I know you can, but a lot of Democrats seem to think that social justice, racial justice means no accountability for criminals who are repeat offenders over and over and over again. And people have had enough. In fact, President Trump this morning spoke about this at the Museum of the Bible. Listen to what our president had to say. Play one.
I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic. Just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
Among the most heinous and terrifying footages of a murder committed I've ever seen, and this is in an era where we have more video, more body cam, more footage of who's doing this stuff than we ever have before. So we can all see, and thanks to X, and yes, thank you, Elon Musk, this circulates freely. Why is that so important in this case? Do you want to guess how many stories? This is the number one story on Fox News. This is the number one story that I am leading with today on this program on 560 radio stations across the country. Do you want to guess how many stories there are in the New York Times about this footage that has gone absolutely viral? Again, horrifying footage, but people should see it. By the way, they cut out the actual they stop right as the knife is about to plunge into her neck. They have that footage too. They didn't release that. We all know how grotesque this situation is. We all know how horrific it was. This young woman sitting there in abject horror and terror as she is being brutally murdered on a train with other people around by this maniac because she sat in front of him. She fled a war zone and thought, I'll be safe in America. But because of social justice prosecutors, because of this left-wing idea that social justice and racial justice equals soft on crime, because of that, she is dead. Because of that, she is no longer with us. It is a stain on this country that we would bring a refugee in, a true refugee from a war, right? Not a fake refugee like Biden was bringing in by the millions, someone who fled a war zone and is murdered brutally on a subway train. This is a huge story because it hits home for so many people, because we don't want to be afraid on light rail. No, I think people have seen enough of that. And this is why the lib media, this is why PBS, New York Times, BBC, CNN just did a story finally because of all the pressure. This is why they don't want to cover this, because they know the American people are fed up and they've had enough. All right, it was 24 years ago this week that our nation suffered a terrorist attack causing nearly 3,000 American casualties and countless others in the years following. 2001 was also the year that the Tunnel to Towers Foundation started their mission to make sure no American ever forgets the horrors of that day and the heroic efforts by our first responders to save lives. We will never forget their efforts or the lives lost. Thanks to your generosity, Tunnel to Towers Foundation has raised funds to provide mortgage-free homes to surviving family members of so many first responders and military members defending our freedoms. The foundation has a wide variety of programs today with their Gold Star, Fallen First Responder, Smart Home, and Homeless Veteran programs. Help Tunnel to Towers and never forget 9/11 or the sacrifices of our country's greatest heroes. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org.